Well, once again, it's time, my friends, for another meet and greet. We're Southern Fried and nationwide, so hang on to your seat. Look around, here's what I found. I guess you'll never know what you'll see on the Southern Fried Podcast Show. Yeehaw.
Yeehaw.
Hello. Welcome to the Southern Fried Podcast. Rob, good to see you. I'm Dave, and if it's your first time seeing us, we're picking up new viewers all the time. We appreciate you looking in. Stay with us a while. This program tonight is our Front Porch Talkin, where we just talk about different topics and issues and things that affect us, that when you go out to the front porch and you're sitting there sipping your sweet tea or coffee or whatever it is, that you just talk over the events that's going on or maybe what's coming up. Today is Sunday. Had a good day in church, Rob. It was a hot weather, though, very hot, muggy, got a little rain where I'm at. Not much, but a little bit. But it's been a good day, and I'm excited to be here. And how about you? How are you doing today? How's the weather where you're at?
Dude, it was like 90-something degrees, and it feel like outside was like 105. Man, I walked out the back door. I was going to go out and mow on my zero turn, and it was just no wind, no breeze. I walked out the door, the sun beating down, the humidity was through the roof. I was like, nope.
Yeah, it's sticky. It'll just grab you and hold on to you and won't let go. And so, yeah, it makes us appreciate fall. I think I read somewhere today that there's 10 weekends till college football or something like that. Oh, that's fun.
Nice.
It makes you feel, I know it's a little warm when it first starts, but it makes you think of cooler weather and football and all that. So, but yeah, while we're on the front porch, Rob, I wanted to bring up something. And I know, and I normally don't, but and this kind of leads into some stuff I think that we can talk about on the front porch. But I got this nice little, and you probably can't see it, but this is my assessment for my taxes on my house, and which is built into my mortgage, like a lot of people do. They went up this year on the assessed value, appraisal value of the appraised value of my property, right at pretty close to $30,000 in 1 year. I have heard a lot of people in this area that I live really talk about this year. They're getting the sticker shock of their property tax bills coming in, and it is ugly. And I don't know. It is what it is. A lot of people up here are talking about filing appeals, at least making them go through the process, but they think it's not fair how much it has went up. And of course, mortgages have went up, inflation's up, and those are tough. Of course, that's built in, but I'm sure my house payment's going to go up because of that. But that's just amazing to me that they're trying to say that 30,000 appraised value went up. I've never seen a jump like that. And I've been living here a long time. I've never seen a jump like that, brother. There's years it didn't even change. Like it might have changed like, $500 or something. I've done nothing since the last year that would cause that. That's crazy.
Well, I would make them go through the process.
Yeah.
At least.
We've got 45 days to file the appeal. I think I'm going to. I would just like to see them look at that. But yeah, my tax bill jumped by about, and I think if I looked at it, I think it jumped probably a couple hundred, about $250 more or something like that. I'm trying to think of what it was last year, but it's just a continual, and where we're kind of at in our nation, and people go to the grocery store, they get the sticker shock of the food, and they go get gas, and it's fluctuated, but it has stayed pretty consistently high. I mean, from what it was. Electric bills, obviously this is the hot time of year. Energy costs are going to be more. Water bill, everything that we do is went up. And you got people on fixed incomes, and it's really tough right now for people to make it ends meet, as we say, make ends meet. And they're jumping through hoops. And I suspect, Robert, there's probably some people just going without some stuff. Maybe they don't go to the doctor like they should, or they don't take medicine like they should because they can't afford it. Or you get into some bad stuff. we were talking to Jason on the Faith and Farming video, which, by the way, we want to thank all the listeners for our watchers, listeners, however, that have already tuned in. That has had a lot of views just on our Facebook. And we appreciate, we've heard from some of his family, and they really have been complimentary of that. And he's going to be back. There's so much that we didn't cover that even he said there's a lot of things I could have brought up. I probably should have. So we're going to have a round 2 of that at some point in the future. But thank y'all for listening, watching, like and follow us, just so that it gets us closer to going to live. We're going to be able to do live videos before long on Facebook, and then feed those into our other social networks. So we appreciate all that, and I'm hearing from people all the time. But Robert, this is I think, and nobody knows for sure, but as we sit on the front porch, I think of when I was a little kid, and I would sit around and I would listen to the adults. By the way, I was quiet as a mouse. I was a shy kid. And I did my time of running around and playing sports and hide and go seek and all that stuff. But I really did, from the earliest of ages, enjoy sitting around the adults and listening to what they were talking about. It was much more interesting than what my age group was talking about. And, sometimes you would hear them talking about the cost of things and, how high this had gotten. And, they were concerns, worry, whether it was going to rain or something broke and how they were going to try to afford to fix it and things like that. And we got all that stuff going on. And then I remember also going to he's with the Lord now. I used to go to this great local barber. By the way, we need to have one of those good local old school barbers on. We need to do one like that. But you went to your barber shop. What did you get to hear about? You got to hear about the Lord. You got to hear all the rumors that was going on in the area. You got to hear about politics. We definitely did. Whether you could sit and listen, you didn't have to partake. But at my barbershop, you're going to hear about all that stuff. And I remember going to my barbershop, and he was older than me, and he talked about what it meant for his dad, no matter which side you were on, for his dad when the assassination of John F. Kennedy occurred. And I remember him sharing that with me. I listened to my mom talk about the Cuban Missile Crisis, and that was how worried she was at the time. My dad had just came out of the military. He was still active to be called back up. That was several days of worry and prayer, concern for a nation. There's been many others, obviously 9/11, different things that we talk about. I don't know if it's there right now, but as we think about sitting on the front porch and we're just enjoying life, I just can't imagine there's so many things we don't know that go on that could be dangerous to us. And this is not a political show, but it is a show where we talk about what's going on and how it affects us in the South. And this whole leadership thing of the nation is concerning to me. Without being party politic here, we have a president who, since the debate went so bad, there's a lot of talk even today about what's going to happen. And nobody really knows unless it's dropped in the few minutes before we went on here into the show. There's a lot of rumors about what's going to happen and what that means. And I'm not even going to talk about the players involved. That's not my point here. My point is, Rob, I'm concerned for our nation. We have enemies, and this is the kind of thing that is very dangerous for a nation, that to look like it's weak, to look like it's not prepared, or there's indecision, who's really in control, who's going to be, leading the nation. This may be end up being a very pivotal moment, Rob, in our lifetimes. It really could be. We hope that nothing happens, but do we really know? I mean, that's one of those things. We didn't know 9/11 was going to happen until we was in the middle of it. Right. I would hope not. We need to pray to that end. But this is amazing. I was a little child. I was about 8 years old when Richard Nixon, and I watched it live with my dad. I always watched the national news with my dad. I saw all the Vietnam reports. I saw Walter Cronkite and Dan Rather and the whole deal. But without even understanding all the particulars, that moment when Richard Nixon climbed the Air Force One, the helicopter, I think it was, whichever it was, I think it was helicopter. and he gave the thumbs up and everything. And he was resigning. It was a sad moment for me. I remember having tears in my eyes because I thought it was very sad that a president was having to do that. And I think anytime that we have something that happens in our leadership, the assassinations, the attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan, Gerald Ford, not that one was over pretty quick, but it was still scary. You know, hadn't been that long since the assassinations of the Kennedys and others, you know, that were slain, and our nation was really reeling still from that. But that one in 1980, was that 80 or 80? I forget, the 81, whatever it was, when the Ronald Reagan was shot. That was another pivotal moment, Rob, where you had Alexander Haig stepped up on live TV and said, "I'm in charge here," and he broke the chain of command and he ruined his career. That's the kind of thing is concerning to the United States. In this, you can't have a vacuum. You have to have leadership. We may not agree with who's in office at the moment. That's not the point here. The point is that for better or for worse, whether you like their politics or you can't stand their politics, the point is we want a safe nation. And there are problems, but this is concerning. There's a lot of talk about what may happen. It was conversation at my church, and we prayed. Both services we usually do, but we had, I think I would call it extra special prayer for our nation. During this time, our leaders were instructed, it's a biblical for us to do that, you know, to pray for our leaders. And I would say from the front porch here, I would say we need to pray because this is very concerning.
Okay.
You see going on.
It is. And I tell you what, let's back way up. Let's talk about our prices. The way that inflation is just taking hold of everything in our lives. Food prices are up, energy prices are up, taxes. These tax bills are going to wreck so many, especially these seniors and people on fixed incomes.
No doubt.
You know, that extra $200-300, it may not seem like a whole lot to some people, but when you're living on a fixed income, and that's the difference between taking medicine and not, like you were talking about. That's the difference between being able to eat a decent meal 3 times a day. That's the difference between having electricity and not having. And down here, you better have your electricity because the
Oh
inside
yeah.
will be burning up. You'll have older people dropping off. And
Amen.
you know, you can't afford to drive anywhere because of gas. This thing, people want to go on vacation every once in a while, but if you can't afford, I mean, we went and got gas today, and it was $3.49. Now, I know it's cheaper or more expensive out west. I know, comparing us to California, we got no business complaining. But I remember when gas hit $1 a gallon, and my mama raising Cain when it hit $1 a gallon, and that was back in the set. My goodness, I mean, she about stroked out. That's $1 a gallon for gas. Well, if we had $1 a gallon for gas today, we sure would be happy. But you can't drive anywhere. You can't. I mean, it's just getting ridiculous, and they're really wanting to push these electric cars. They don't have any infrastructure for it. You couldn't charge the
No.
thing.
Yeah, out in your area it would be totally useless. It would
Yeah.
just not work.
What are we going to do? Plug it into the irrigation system?
Yeah. It doesn't work in rural areas. It doesn't work in mountainous areas, real cold areas. It just sucks the energy out of them. So you got to be, and even in metro areas, you've got to have enough charging stations or you're going to be waiting in line. It would look like the gas shortages of the 70s, but with people waiting in line to get hooked up to charge their batteries.
Worse than that.
Oh, it'd be far worse.
That would make this look like a picnic.
Yeah.
I mean, at least you had the line moving. You have to what? How long does it take them batteries to charge?
Well, it depends on if they're a fast charge or not. And it would depend on if that charger is a fast charger or not. There's been a lot of money given towards that, but they're very slow in getting that out there. There's just a lot of questions, you know, about about where we're going with that. But in the state of Georgia, there's some battery manufacturers are throwing up big operations, man. One of them's put on hold right now just because there's such a hiccup on it right now. Before we go on to because I want to come back to where we're at, and this right now, it's a critical moment, I believe. But you mentioned gas. What is the lowest you remember gas in your life?
I can remember 69 cents.
I'm a little older than you, and there was a gas war. You remember there used to be those gas wars, and people would lower the across the street, they would lower theirs, then they would lower their gas. 3 stations got into a gas war in the town that I'm in. And I do believe that I remember it being down about 35 cents. But the most common was around 40, around 40 something cents. And there was a station that went out of business. And forever, they finally took it down. Somebody bought the property. Forever, it made you sick to ride by. Their sign stayed up, and it had something crazy like that. I don't know, some low price, and it stayed there for years. And you're thinking, what if? But yeah, and all that cost, just like Jason was talking about, that adds to the cost of everything else, because the fuel is used, just like he's talking about, to plant and harvest. The fuel is used to transport these things to the store. The fuel is used to run the machines, the electricity or whatever it is. It's a combination of things. We've got different energy sources, from nuclear to steam to fuel and hydro and whatever else. But there's a cost to all that stuff, and as it goes up, it runs the cost of every manufacturing good that's out there up, and that's going to get passed on to the consumer eventually. I mean, it just does. And so, yeah, everything's up. People are really struggling more than normal. There are more people becoming homeless. I know some people that are on fixed income, man, that are living in their car, dude. They just can't afford a place right now. The place they were at, it was condemned, or the place they were at, they lost. And I know one guy, and some people are trying to get him some help. He had an amputation, and he doesn't have any place to go while he recovers. And they discharged him today, and he said, "I'm living in my car." And that's certainly not good for somebody who's just had a amputation. I don't remember if it was a toe or foot but anyway, bad. I mean, just bad. And we get up to this, we've got, conflicts all over the world. And so it'd be easy to just sit on front porch and just think about the weather and crops and whatever we're going to do, eat and whatever. But this is a very potential volatile situation. So I don't know what will happen. Only the good Lord does. But I do think it's concerning. And I hope that we can get past this, because our country certainly, I think, teetering on a lot of bad things that could happen. Economically, certainly, conflicts with other nations, shortages. Hasn't been that long. We ran through some shortages. There could be a lot of that. So anyway, from the front porch, I would just say we've had a great day. We're happy. Things are good, but we are recognizing some things that are going on in the nation. And, we've just gotta pray through, and on a human level, I would say, we need to pray for the president. And I know in conservative areas, people are very angry about a lot of stuff. I feel that same frustration and anger. I do. But this is a human being who is obviously beginning to falter it looks to be in a more severe way. And that's got to be tough on his family to watch that. It's tough on a nation to watch. And so we need to pray for him. We don't need bad things to happen. I don't know, Robert, I don't know of anybody that ever wants bad things to happen. They try to predict, and I think they're just trying to be first in the news line to say that. We don't need bad things to happen. And I'll say this. I work with some folks that's lived through civil war in the nation that they lived in, and that's why they ended up here. They've become citizens. They're solid workers. Their kids have graduated college, and they're living the American dream. They've worked hard. But I was talking to one of them one day, and I won't use his name because I didn't get his approval to even say his name, but he told me he's concerned about things he sees in the nation where we are so against each other. And some say that might be by design, that they inflame people to come, not like each other. And I love everybody. I try to get along with everybody. We don't have to agree to be respectful and stuff to each other. But he told me that he said what the rhetoric he hears is the same rhetoric he heard from his nation before they fell into civil war. And he said the day he knew that everything had changed in his life, in his world, was the day he stepped out of his front door, walking to get the mail or to go somewhere, and his neighbor had a gun aimed at him, a rifle. And he stopped and he froze and he said, "Mr. So-and-so," whatever it was, what are you doing? We've been friends for, many, many years. He said, "Why do you have a gun aimed at me?" And he said these words. He said, "You're now my enemy." He ran back in the house, took cover. It wasn't but a short time later, things just blew up in his nation. He was forced into the military, and the rest is history. And it was ugly. But he told me that. This is from his perspective. He said, we need to clamp down on the hating on each other. And I would agree with that. It's very distressing to see those things. And sometimes we don't see that in the rural areas when we get away from cities, but cities are dangerous. And there's such an undercurrent of anger. But that kind of thing can roll in. And it is affecting rural areas. Mm-hmm. The drug trade, people are going up. I listened to a sheriff in the Blue Ridge area, and he was talking about Georgia, and he was talking about how they had a murder that took place in one of their cabins. They went specifically there to get off. It's off a major highway, but they went there, kind of small town, wanting to stay away from cities, hopefully not being noticed. And it was a revenge killing of some kind, if I remember right. But those things are concerning. And I just, we're at a pivotal point in our nation, in our state, and throughout the South. And so as we sit here today talking on the front porch, that is concerning to me. And we should pray for those things and hope these things work out to a good end. Nobody wants trouble.
No. And for some reason, in the last 10 years or so, we've got to where conservatives think liberals are need to be hated, and liberals think conservatives need to be hated. Since when does politics gauge the way you feel about somebody? It's got no business with that. We have a right in this country to vote for whoever we want to vote for.
Certainly.
Without recrimination for it.
That's freedom.
That's freedom. If somebody, I'm not going to say who I vote for. It ain't nobody's business. It's my business.
It is nobody's business.
But if somebody votes for the other party, I'm not going to let that affect how I feel about them. No. I'm not going to judge them for that. It's not our place to judge anybody. That's the Lord's place. We don't do that. If somebody judges me for it, well, they're just as liable to have me tell them they're number one. Because I'm not going to start a big ruckus over it. I'm not. It's not worth it. But a lot of these veterans that we feature on here, they went and fought for our right, for political freedom. We have
they will tell you that because they served and because some of their friends died and all that, mm-hmm. that basically there's a lot of the veterans that have told a lot of Americans you need to watch your mouth. Yeah. You're telling other people what they can do. And we fought and died. Some of us died and were wounded for that freedom, so that you could have a difference of opinion. You could feel differently about things. We're not all the same. And I know that some issues are really great. I get that. But we're not going to change anybody's mind or heart by hate. That will never happen. No. And we know as Christians that, change comes from the inside out. Right. We got to get the inside fixed. You're trying to tell somebody to see something your way, but they may be totally looking at things from their inner part out way different. And you're just not going to be successful. I mean, I'm not saying you can't talk about issues, and certainly, because people will ask me sometimes, How do you feel about a matter? And I do that. I'm willing to be open and tell them how I feel. I had a guy one time, I worked with him, and I don't normally talk politics at work or anything, surely. But a guy asked me how I felt about a vote that was coming up on something that I didn't care for. And I said, yeah, I heard about that. And I said, I'll be voting. And he said, well, how do you feel about that? And I said, this is the way I feel. Just my opinion, my vote. And he said, well, you're an idiot. And he said, you're foolish. I said, okay, I'm an idiot and I'm foolish, but it's my right to feel that way. Mm-hmm. We actually talked about that. And at the end of the discussion, he said, I'm sorry for what I said. He said, I'm just think that he was thinking of things financially from his direction. I was thinking of things morally. And so I pointed out those differences. And anyway, we come to a good conclusion. We're friends to this day, but I had to get past, him calling me a foolish and an idiot and all that stuff. But I thought it was handled well. We didn't have a loud argument and call each other names and scream and all that. I just said, listen, I have a right. You asked me. Don't ask me if you don't want to know my opinion, right? One thing about Southerners, Rob, we're very opinionated. Now, that's not to say we're the only ones. I think if you go to the middle of New York, them New Yorkers will be opinionated too. So if you don't want to know their opinion, don't ask.
Right.
Be ready for that answer you're going to get. It's their opinion, right?
And the same thing in Missouri. If you don't like their opinion, they'll show you.
It's like it. I've always said at church, even though we generally all agree on a lot of things, we're flowing the same way. If you were to take a poll, an anonymous poll in the church, and ask opinions about certain things, I would be interested to see what the poll would be and what the questions would be. I imagine they might be a little shocked at some of the different ideas that some people have. We don't all think exactly the like. We may generally flow the same direction, but some of the best conversations I have had have been in ministry with people that are totally different from me. And we sat and we reasoned together. We didn't change each other's minds, but we enjoyed the conversation. We both learned something about why that person felt the way they did. And we hugged necks at the end of it, because we shake hands and hug necks here at Southern Fried Podcast.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, they might have been a little aggressive and said, I can't believe you believe this. And by the end, they would say something like, you're a good man. I appreciate you talking with me, sharing with me. And isn't that what we used to do, Rob? That's the whole idea of Front Porch here is, whatever happened, just being able to sit around and have an adult conversation with mutual respect. We don't have to agree, but we should have respect and love for each other. We're to love all men, even our enemies. We're to pray for them. So anyway, it is a pivotal time. Concerning to folks on the front porch, they're getting, chicken prices are up, egg prices are up, milk prices are up, taxes are up. The one thing that went up, salaries.
Yeah.
Money, what you're paid per hour, a lot of that hasn't went up. Or if they raise it, they shorten your hours down, Right. You have to be careful what you ask for, but these are pivotal times. I guess any presidential election year is a pivotal time. This one more than most, but we survived the previous ones and we'll survive this one, but it is concerning to see. I guess I would just say keep, kind of pay attention to it a little bit more in the days and weeks ahead because, we're like 127 days, I think, from election or something like that. And I just think it's interesting, But when I go to work, I work with people from all different backgrounds, and I can say this is what they want. They want to make a good, decent living. They want to live in a good home. They want to have a family. They want to be able to eat. They want to enjoy the comforts of that home, the air, the heat. They love their hobbies. They love their, the family and neighbors. They like to go do things, whether it's going to movies or a concert or go skiing or whatever it is. We all can agree on that stuff. We all want the same things, and it used to be called the American dream. We want those same things. It's just different ideas about how we get there. And But yeah, I mean, it's funny because I sit around all these adults when I was a kid, and I was hearing things about. You know what I was hearing? The same things. I was hearing about politicians that were horrible. I was hearing about the rising cost of groceries, the wages not going up, or losing jobs, not being able to get fuel, shortages, everything we're talking about. By the way, on that idea of food prices going up, I remember one time. Now you got to remember, this is back in the early 70s. I don't know what year, but I can remember my mom went to the store and she came home. By the way, when you used to, you could spend some money and you come home with a lot of bags. Nowadays, you got two little bags and you felt like you got robbed at the door. I mean, with somebody in a mask, right? Because you're thinking, this is all I got for $150. But my mom came home, had all these bags, and my dad said, "How much did you spend?" And I remember my mom said, "Oh, well, it was $25." And my dad come unglued. $25? We can't afford that. Are you kidding? I didn't know you was going to go to the store to buy enough for a month. We're just supposed to be buying for the week, And $25, brother, today don't get you too far
No,
inside the old grocery store.
I can remember. I can remember an old Dennis the Menace cartoon,
Yeah.
and he came walking in and was bragging to his dad, "Look, I can carry $20 worth of groceries." I
Yeah,
remember
it was a
that.
workout.
Yeah.
By the
So
way, I think can I just say I might make somebody mad. It's okay. Plastic bags are of the devil. I hate those things.
I love
I,
them.
they're useful for rebagging stuff and all that, but it's horrible when you're trying to carry groceries in. Back in the day, when we had the good old bags and stuff. I mean, you could grab up four of them things and truck in and just about probably get it all. Now you got all these bags, trying to put your hand through all of them and hold them up. Something they roll around while you're driving home, and the stuff rolls out of it. Cans are the worst. Uh, and I miss the old because I bagged groceries
Dude,
when I was
you're
16 years old, and they used to bring us in at my store, and once a month we would go for a review, and or it might have been once every 3 months, but anyway they bring us in. First thing to do is that you had to come in uniform, and they would check to make sure you were shaved. And they would tell you like the military, you need to shave more. You've got some whiskers there. We can't have that. They would check the cleanliness of your outfit, make sure it wasn't frayed or torn or whatever. Uh, and we would have these competitions where we would bag groceries. So what they did is they would put all these groceries on a conveyor, and the checkers just checking them through like they normally would. First, it was the old push button, which they were amazing how fast they could do that. Then it was the scan, and they're slinging this stuff at you as fast as they can, and you got to bag all that up. And it would usually be like 3 bags worth, 2 or 3 bags worth. First thing they do is they take a razor blade, they would cut the four corners of the bag, and all of it fell open. And if anything fell from that bag, once it was, you had to go back. Didn't matter if two of them did good, one of them didn't, you had to go back. The next thing they would check was to make sure you wasn't putting the rat poison with the hamburger meat and stuff like that, cleaning products with, the vegetables or something. But I remember that it was a little nerve wracking. You'd go in there and you would be, I mean, everybody's watching you and but honestly, we done it so much. You could bag if you were really, if nothing kind of slowed you down, like a bag fell over or something, you could bag fast as the lady could ring it up usually. And I never had any problem with it, to be honest. But I saw some old boys who did. They cut them bags and stuff. One thing would fall out. They'd be like, "Oh," and say, "Okay, Junior, you got to do it again." But
mm-hmm.
it was a lot of military type stuff in that job back then. I went back years later with my wife, and I just shook my head. And I won't mention the things that I saw, but it was so different from what we did. And I know it sounds like in my day, but I really felt like the standards had fell. The
Dude.
standards of dress, the standards of hygiene, the standards of look, and the standards of customer service, which we all know has fallen.
Oh
There
yeah.
are still some that do a great job, but there are some who are just horrible at customer service.
Yes. Bad. And see, I worked at, I'm not going to call the name of it, but I was cutting meat at at we'll call it an upscale store. And I am not, I can get along with people. I love people to death. I do have a sense of humor. And sometimes a sense of humor is not the best thing to have in customer service. Because things will strike you funny. And it's never good. So, yeah, I stayed in trouble quite often. Would have the store manager come up and say, "Did you say so and so to Miss So and so?" "Yeah, I was joking." Don't do that. You got to do some things in customer service to make your job bearable at times.
Yeah.
So, of course, I didn't have to be in customer service to upset people, as I'm sure that you are well versed in.
You are a legend. I will say that, a legend at instigating some things. We'll just leave it at that. But
Yeah,
legend. Now, I'm not going to say that the people involved didn't maybe call upon some of that, but it sort of lended itself to the event. But it might have went a little bit too far sometimes. I'll say it that way. Maybe, just maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't look like that, but yeah. And nowadays, though, and for all those that may be listening that you deal in customer service, let's give the flip side of that. The attitudes of the customers is far worse than it's ever been. They're demeaning, they're demanding, they are ugly, and they cause a scene. They talk down to people. I see this all the time. It makes me very angry. So they take advantage of a situation to treat somebody like dirt, and that's not right. We here on the front porch don't agree with that kind of attitude.
No. And see, I could deal with someone being grouchy. Coming in and be like, "Hey, look, I need you to get me this, this, and this," and be straightforward about it. And if you mess it up, they're going to be like, "Okay, dummy, that's not what I wanted. I wanted this." "Oh, sorry," and you fix it and go on. "Thank you. You're welcome. Have a great day." Oh no! Now it's like, I said I wanted a pound of hamburger. That is 1 pound, 0.01. That's not what I want. Now that 0.01, that's 1/100th of a pound. 1/100th. Not an ounce, 1/100th. It's about that, a ball of hamburger about that big. Oh no, I can't have that. And they wait till you're all the way done to tell you. I mean, they could have told you while you had the bag open on the scale. Oh no, I wanted exactly 1 pound. Or, stand there and watch you do something. Wash your hands, put your gloves on. They've watched you do that. Okay. And you've got gloves on too.
Yeah.
But they've watched you wash your hands. And then you go up there and you get their stuff and they say, "Before you do that, go wash your hands again." Gloves off. Wash your hands again. Just good enough. And see, that's when generally the store manager would be coming back to me going, "You can't say that. You can't ask them to inspect your hands before you put the gloves on. Does this look good?"
Talking about customer service once, and by the way, I think I've had different places, but I think these two stories are from the same place, which I won't name. And it was hot. The first one, it was a hot summer day, just like today, working in that factory. You know how it is. You work 12 hours. You're just sweated out. You feel horrible. And most nights the wife would have something to eat, but it was one of those nights where she had a meeting or she had to be somewhere, and she just called me up and said, "Hey, just stop and get you something on the way." "Okay, yeah, that's fine." So you go to the drive-thru, you order the food, it comes out, through the window, you get your bag, you go home. When I get home, I take my shoes off. I get comfortable before I eat. And so I've done, gotten declothed, put some night clothes on. The shoes are off. I'm relaxing into my chair, feet's up, pull out the food, and the hamburger didn't have any hamburger meat on it. Now I could have done without the lettuce, tomato, onions, or whatever. That would have been, but it was buns and all that stuff and no hamburger meat. So I'm like, oh, I don't even feel like going back. I don't want to do this, but I'm like, I just can't. I've got to go, So I just throw on the bare minimum. I throw some old slip-on shoes on. I go back down there. And honestly, I was so tired. And I knew if I opened my mouth, I would say something I would regret because I was angry. And I pulled up because I had to go back, and I just held the bag outside the window, and the girl opens it up, and she's like, "Is there a problem?" I mean, she might have. Who knows? Today they might think you're giving them a bomb or something, And I said, "You open the bag, and you'll find out what the problem is." And so she takes it, barely holding it, like what? And they all get over there and they look, and I'm watching them, and about the time they figure out what's going on, they're like, "Oh my gosh!" And they start pointing fingers at people, and they come back and apologize, but. That same place one time, I was headed to give blood, and I wanted to. It was going to be a few minutes before I got there, so I thought I need to put something on my stomach, and so I gave. I had a $5 bill. I just ordered I think it was $2 and something. Maybe three. That's $2 and something. Yeah. I give her the $5, and I should have got $2 and something back. Well, I just have my hand out. She puts the money in there, and I look, and I see instantly it's a lot more than $2 and change. So I never brought it in. I kept my hand out the window, and she just took off. So I'm waiting and waiting. There's cars behind me. She comes back, and she says, "What's the problem? You got all your food." I said, "Ma'am, you gave me too much money." No, I gave you all your change. No. You're not ripping me off. I'm not. No, sir. I know what you gave me, and you're not getting any more money back. I'm not putting up with it. And slammed the window and walked off. And I thought, my goodness. So I just sit there. So the manager shows up, and the manager says, "What seems to be the problem, sir?" I said, "Well, the problem is this. First of all, your worker made a mistake." She goes, "Oh, they did?" With the attitude, I said, "Yes, but it was a very easy mistake to correct. The problem is I cannot convince her to fix it. I'm just trying to help her out." So I told her what had happened. And when I explained, I went through it. I said, "This is what I bought. This is what I gave her. This is what she gave me." And when you could see on her face, she went from wanting to, thinking I'm the problem till she just melted away like, "Oh my goodness." She said, "Sir, thank you for your honesty. I'll take the change, and I will talk to this employee." I said, "I just don't want to take what's not mine." So I took the $2 and change, and she gave me like $15 too much back. So her till is going to be way off, man.
Yeah.
And as I was driving off, I looked over, and the manager was up there doing this, and she walks up with her hands on her hips with an attitude. And before I pulled off, I could see that she already had her head dropped, like I could only imagine what she was saying. Like, "Look, he's trying to be honest. I mean, what is wrong with you? You didn't give him a chance to explain himself." And I realized people try to rip him off all the time, but if she'd only listened, but yeah.
I'll tell you, one of the most amazing experiences I ever had was in a little town up there. I will call the name of the town. It was Ringgold.
Ringgold.
Yes. I'm not going to call the name of the restaurant, but I pulled through this restaurant one night, and I noticed a sign on the drive-through window. It said, "Braille menus available upon request." So I'm sitting at the drive-through window looking at this sign. And the little girl comes over. She says, "Can I take your order?" I said, "Well, you need put my order in." I was waiting there, and I was going to pay her. And then she said, I said, "Before I give you the money for my order, I would like a Braille menu." "A what?" "A Braille menu." She says, "I don't know if we have one." I said, "Well, it says on the sign here at your drive-through window that Braille menus are available upon request." I could see it clearly. She said, I don't let me go get the manager. I let this whole thing play out. I had to because it was too good not to. The manager came up. He was like, sir. I was like, yeah, we don't have a Braille menu. I said, it's not what it says on the drive-through window there. That seems like a very logical place to put that sign. I want a Braille menu. He said, why? I said, I want to see what my I can't say, what my hamburger would look like if it was in dots. He said, we don't have I said, well, you might want to take that sign down because that ain't going to do nobody no good right there anyway. And you ain't even got one. I said, I feel gypped. Give me my hamburger. Let me go.
I saw one like that recently, and they probably do, but it was at a gas station, and it says, if you need assistance, honk the horn. And I'm thinking at most convenience stores, you start honking the horn, they're just going to look at you. There's no extra help to come out there and help you. They got 12 people in line. They're trying to do lottery tickets and make money orders and all that stuff. Do you really think anybody's going to come from inside the store that works there to help you? Except if they have extra help, I could see it. They're probably going to be mad that you're blowing the horn. They'd probably get on the intercom or the speaker and all that. You know, what's your problem? You know, I was just thinking that's one of those feel good things, but it doesn't really happen that way, you know, but it looks good. It's one of those things to kind of put up and say, hey, look what we'll do for you. We're here for you.
Yeah, a Braille menu at the drive-through window.
Like,
how dumb.
If you had on sunglasses, that would have even been better, dude.
Oh, my gosh. I could have Ronnie Millsap them.
True story. A couple of preachers I knew, and I know one of them's with the Lord now. I can't remember if the other one is, but one of them was blind. Great guy from this area. If anybody's listening, a lot of you'll know what I'm talking about. And they ran around all day long. And late in the day, the one preacher said, and he'd been asking him all day long, is anything coming your way? You know, we do that. Hey, is anything coming your way? And he'd say, I don't see a thing. So, he'd just pull out all day long. And he said the last time that happened, he said, I don't see a thing. And as he pulled out, it hit him like a ton of bricks. Of course he don't see anything. The man's blind. And he's like, he said, hey, man, you've been doing that all day. He said, I've been pulling out. He said, there's no way you could have known. He goes, no, you just asked me if anything was coming. And I said, I don't see a thing. It was the grace of God. They've been pulling out all over town for the whole day, man. They made rounds all over that day.
If I was blind, I'd have do the same thing. How's it look? Looks clear.
Yeah, looks good to me. But he was they were both big cut ups. And I'll just never forget him saying that. He said, my heart sank. He said, I thought I could, he said, I was amazed that we didn't get killed because he said, I never looked. He said, I truly forgot that the man was blind. And he said, I knew that. I mean, he knew him well. They went to church together for a long time. And, but yeah, you gotta be careful with stuff like that. You know, that's just easy to get caught up in a moment and kind of forget stuff. But maybe he could have said, well, I don't see anything, but I am blind. But he just rolled with it. So, you know.
You don't need to remind him of stuff like that. Just tell him you don't see anything. You'll be fine. Well, my sweet tea is empty. I got to go refill. Let's say we go refill our sweet tea and we'll meet back up here in a day or two.
Sounds good. We hope you've enjoyed our crazy conversation from the front porch. Pray for our nation.
Yes.
And send us how you feel about it. You know, you got the email there on the scroll. We'd love to know. We'll share some of that. We won't use your name. I just like to get opinions about what you see. A lot of you, I mean, you know me, know my number. Just text me or something. Yeah. I would like to know, but it's been good to be on the front porch. It's been a little muggy today to be on the front porch. A little humid. As we say, it's the kind of humidity that'll reach out and grab hold of you and won't let you go.
That's it.
So
we also refer to these dog days, but we ain't quite got there yet. It ain't time for the dog days yet. Too early for dog
Oh,
days. It must be cat days. We
hey, we
killed
love
it.
all of you. Rob, I love you.
Love
It's
y'all
always
too.
good to be on here. We're looking for a great week of programming. We've got stuff scheduled already. We're going to be making
Yeah.
more new episodes and also hopefully a new program coming soon. And also, Rob, this is the week of July 4th and celebrating freedom. And so we'll try to do something special for that too.
Amen. All right. God bless all y'all. And we see y'all next time on the Southern Fried Podcast.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Good night, y'all.
Well, once again, it's time, my friends, for another meet and greet. We're Southern Fried and nationwide, so hang on to your seat. Look around, here's what I found. I guess you'll never know what you'll see on the Southern Fried Podcast Show. Yeehaw!